Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on our introductory media call with our new women's basketball head coach, Vic Schaefer. We're thrilled to have Coach Schaefer joining the Texas family. Both he and Chris Del Conte are on the phone today. So I'm going to start it off and turn it over to Chris Del Conte with a few brief comments, and then he'll introduce Coach. Go ahead, Coach. Go ahead, CDC.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is such a strange way to introduce an incredible human being in Vic Schaefer and his wife, Holly, and his two children, Christopher, Logan, and Blair, to our family, to the University of Texas. But I do appreciate you jumping on this call because we're really excited about Vic coming to the University of Texas and what he's done, not only at Mississippi State, but at Arkansas, and what he did as an assistant coach at A&M, and then as head coach at Sam Houston. He's incredible. And he's a Texas man. He's from this state, born in Austin, grew up in Houston. Everything about him is what we are looking for in a coach. And I wish I could just sit across the table from you and look in your eyes, and you can see how excited I am about Vic Schaefer and his family coming to the University of Texas. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our new head coach, Vic Schaefer, the University of Texas Longhorns. Coach, come on board, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Really want to just start by just thanking our Director of Athletics and Vice President Chris Del Conte and President Fenbus for the opportunity to be the head women's basketball coach at the University of Texas, a tradition-rich university and a women's basketball program that was at the forefront for so many years in the history of women's college basketball. Just also want to take this time to also express my sincere thanks to Dr. Keenum here at Mississippi State, Scott Strickland, who hired me, and our current AD, John Cohen, for the opportunity here, and our fan base, Bulldog family, for their love of my family, my staff, our program, my players here at MSU. This is a great state and so many wonderful people. And the state of Mississippi has been tremendous to us. To my student athletes, nothing's been harder than to know we've had our last game, our last practice, our last pregame meal, our last plane ride together. I love them, and I will miss my players dearly. But now I'm excited to be returning home to the great state of Texas, a place where I've spent 45 years of my life, a university that has so much tradition and history, both academically and athletically, and particularly in women's basketball. And my job now is to restore this program to the national prominence that it once had. And I take that responsibility seriously. I'm excited about the opportunity, and I look forward to rolling up my sleeves and getting to work.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open it up to a question and answer. Both CDC and Coach Schaefer will be available, so we'll open it up to the question and answers.
One moment, I'll start the session. And stand by for your first question.
Vic, hey, it's Chip Brown with Horns 24/7 and AM 1300 The Zone. Welcome.
Thanks, Chip.
I wanted to, ask you what you've learned in your 8 seasons as a head coach with the success you've had that you feel like you can apply now at Texas to get this program restored, as you said.
Yeah. I don't think there's any question, Chip. We believe we've got the blueprint. I've been a part of rebuilding, several programs throughout my career. I think the thing that you learn is you've got to hang your hat on something, Chip. If somebody describes your team as a tough, physical, aggressive team, it wouldn't matter if you're Coach Herman in football, Coach Pierce in baseball, myself, Shaka in basketball, or any sport on campus. If they describe your team as a tough, physical, aggressive basketball team, that doesn't say anything about your skill set, doesn't say anything about how far your quarterback can throw the football, doesn't say how fast your pitchers throw. doesn't say anything about your skill set, but it does describe the character and the makeup of your program. And I think coming here and building this program, you know, we didn't have a whole lot of skill set kids early on. And until we could get Victoria Vivians and some of those great skill set kids that we were able to finally start recruiting, you've got to hang your hat on something. You know, we have a saying in our locker room, it's not what we do, but how we do it. That separates us from the rest of the country. And what that means is they're probably doing the same sled drill at Texas, they're doing it at Alabama, that they're doing at Tennessee, Georgia. They're doing the same shell defensive drill in basketball, those same places, Knoxville, you know, wherever. It's the accountability that goes in those, and it's the technique. It's the little things that you're coaching and teaching with young people. And so for me, you know, that's been a big part of our success is, and again, that's playing hard. You know, that to me is how we built this program and how we've gone from 200, 300, 400 people in a game and got a whisper on press row or everybody in the arena can hear you to averaging 8,500 and having 4 games of 10,000 a year ago and setting the all-time record, not a free ticket in the house, setting the record in the all-time record for the history of the building, which was built in 1973 of 10,726. That's how you build a program, because that's what moms and dads want to show their son, their daughter. Hey, I want you to play like she plays. Mm-hmm. People come and watch us play. Chip, we ain't standing around in a 2-3 zone. We ain't playing hope you miss defense. We're picking your butt up when you hit the city limits, and we'll show you the door when you leave. And that's just how we play. And that's our style of play. That's what we recruit to. That's our fit. And I think that's what people want to see. They want to see kids that honor the game, that respect the game, that play the game the right way. So these are the things that I've really learned throughout my entire career. And I just think it's really important when you're trying to establish an identity. And I think that's probably what's missing right now in Austin is a little bit of an identity for that program. And that's my job to restore that.
Thank you.
Hold for your next question.
Hey guys, it's Brian Davis with the Statesman. This is both for Chris and Vic. I was hoping you both could describe, guys, how this went down. You know, obviously it's not a typical time here in our country, but CDC, how did you start this conversation? And Vic, specifically, when Texas calls, what do you think?
I'll start the conversation at the beginning, and first of all, just it was a difficult decision to make a change, and I do appreciate Karen Aston and her staff and what she had done for the University of Texas and what they'd done for the University of Texas. But once I made that decision that we were going to make a change on Friday, you always have names. You have a drawer of names that you keep around and you talk about, and you just have these. You know, in any type of a search, you have a wish list. You have a coach you can get, and then you have the oh my God list. You never want to go to the oh my God list. You know, there's the oh my God list, and then there's a coach you can get, and there's a wish list coach. And you know, you have these names of wish list coaches. And I had a conversation with Jody Conrad, and I said, Jody, we're going to make a change. And we started just talking about it, and my wish list name was Vic Schaefer, but I didn't say anything. And we're just kind of sitting there, and she goes, Chris, it's difficult, and I understand we have to make a change, and I get it. I get it. I said, well, who do you think we ought to go talk to? She says, you know, got to talk to the kahuna and make sure. She goes, I don't know if you can get him, but if you can get Vic Schaefer, you go get him. I said, and I looked at her and I had this huge smile inside, but I didn't want to show it outside, show my cards too much. Talked to CP, talked to Kathy, and we're talking. They're you know, the aficionados of basketball, and they're all like, "You gotta be kidding me! You think you can go get him?" I have no idea, but we'll find out. So Sean Eichhorst comes rolling in. I said, "Sean, what do you think?" He goes, "Hey, let's find out." So we call up, and we ask for permission. We talk to through Vic's people. He says, "Yeah, he'll entertain a meeting." Sean walks back and says, "We're not messing around. I'll have a bird in Mississippi tomorrow morning." So I said, "All right, let's do this." Bird landed. I think it's just going to be Coach Schaefer coming back on the plane. He had his whole family. I was like, "Yeah, baby." As soon as I saw the family get off the plane, I just showed up in my truck. I'm like, "Oh, we got a shot. We got a shot," because he brought the whole enchilada with him. So I was excited. So when I saw him and his family get off, I thought to myself, okay, we got a shot, and let's go sit down. And basically, we hammered it out yesterday, and Saturday, and the rest is history.
And Vic, what did you think when you got that first phone call?
Well, I've been doing this 35 years, Brian, so I am well aware of the history of this university and the tradition. I am aware of the academic integrity and the success and prominence of this university. And then I'm obviously well versed in the athletic success and tradition of this university. And so being from that state, I've lived in it for 45 years of my life, born right across the street there at Breckenridge Hospital. Lived on the south side of Houston most of my life. You're humbled, you're honored. And at the same time, it's always from the outside looking in, you think but until you get there, you really don't know. And I was excited, but it's a family decision for me. And it's a calling, Brian. When I came to Mississippi State, obviously I was fairly comfortable where I was. And but I've always looked at these coaching moves that I've made as callings, because I believe that's the way it is. I believe God has you in a place where he wants you. He's got a role for you to fulfill when you're there. And, when we came to Mississippi State 8 years ago, I had a lot of people going, "What in the world are you doing?" But I felt like it was a calling. I felt like it was a place we could win championships. And so when I went to Austin to meet with them, I had the same feeling. And again, once you get inside and you sit down and you sit across from people and you look in their eyes and then you have a chance to see their vision, it's what you want to be a part of, and you can be successful. And trust me, whether you're an academic person in teaching and you want to win the Nobel Prize, I'm sure that's what President Fenves wants when he hires a faculty. He wants people that are driven to be the best they can be, and there's no question that Chris Del Conte's the same way. He wants to win championships, and quite frankly, that's how I'm built. I'm not interested in just being good. I have no desire to be good. And I'm going to tell y'all, it's a miserable way to live. But I got no desire to just be good. I want to win championships. I've been in that last game 2 years in a row. And that's where I want to be. But you've got to be somewhere that can support that and allow you to have every opportunity to do that. And at the University of Texas, there's no question that's what you have. And so for me, once I was able to see and visit with them and just really have some personal conversations with everyone he just mentioned, from Chris Plonsky to Kathy Harston to Coach Conrad and Chris, it was just evident to me that this is an incredible opportunity, and it's a chance for me to come home, y'all. My parents are buried 65 miles from there in LaGrange, Texas. That's where our family plot is. It's where I grew up as a young boy at my grandmother's house. My sister, who was my kindergarten teacher, who was my reading and spelling teacher from the 1st to the 8th grade, lives in Pearland, which is 2.5 hours away. We're so close, and yet we've been so far away and haven't been able to see each other, spend Christmases together or anything. And she and we're all we have left in our family as we've buried both of our parents. So many factors go into it. I'm walking away from what's already been ranked as a preseason number 3 team in the country. But again, it comes back to a calling. It comes back to an opportunity that is just, you can't walk away from. And again, to be able to work with people and for people that want the same thing you want. So I'm honored. It's a tremendous responsibility, Brian, to be the head women's basketball coach at the University of Texas. I don't know that there's a greater responsibility in all of college athletics because of the history and the storied tradition that program has had. And there's not enough time in the day to talk about the impact that Texas women's basketball and specifically Jody Conrad has had on our game. And I'm just honored to have an opportunity to restore it to where it needs to be on the national scene.
Put me in, Coach.
All right. You got to hustle to the table and get that warm up off a little quicker.
As a reminder, if you have a comment or question, please press 01 on your touch-tone phone now. And please stand by for the next question.
Hey, Coach. Cedric Golden at the Austin American Statesman. How are you?
Fine, Cedric. How are you doing? Appreciate you being here today.
Man, I'm great. Hey, being from here and working all those years with Gary Blair at A&M and winning it all in 2011, you spent a lot of time on the visitors bench at the Irwin Center. How will those experiences help you with this new challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anytime you're having to go against the best, and I've been in 2 great leagues most of my career, you know, as a young coach, it's what molds you and forms your philosophy. And, you know, I played in the drum when I was at Sam Houston State. We brought our team over and, you know, obviously did it at Arkansas. I don't know that we did it at Arkansas, but we did it at, you know, at A&M. And then at Mississippi State, I brought my teams in there. And, you know, some of the early games, obviously, tremendous atmosphere. You know, maybe here lately, not so much. And, but going against you know, Karen was a tremendous tactician. She always had her teams ready to play against us. And, you know, we always had to be prepared and ready to go. And, again, have a lot of respect for her and her staff and know how hard they work. But our teams were always really good in that building. Even the one game we lost to them when I was here at Mississippi State, it was like a 54-48 bloodbath. We just couldn't score. My best player went 5 out of 20, and we defended. We just couldn't score enough points. And so, you know, I think you learn just as in anywhere you go, when you go against great coaches and players that prepare coaches that prepare the right way and go against All-Americans, which Texas has always had a bench full of All-Americans. You better be on your game. And I think I was always able to get my teams ready for Texas. And that's what now I have to be able to do and wear, is that when you have the University of Texas and you have Texas across your chest, much like it's been the last 5 years here at Mississippi State, they're coming for you. They don't care if you got somebody hurt, sick, you had a bad recruiting class, your team might not be as good as it once was. They don't care. You know, they didn't care this year that we were young, inexperienced. They didn't care. They came after us because of what we've done here at Mississippi State, been in the national championship game 2 years in a row, 3 straight Elite Eights, back-to-back SEC. They came after us. Unfair to some of my young kids, especially my freshmen, because they didn't do anything to earn that. But it just comes with wearing that jersey. And that's what you get at Texas, dating all the way back to when they won the national championship in '86. So that's what we have to instill in our players, is realize they're coming for you. You got orange and white, and you got Texas on your chest, and you're going to get their best every night.
Hey, Vic. This is Nick Moyle with the San Antonio Express News. Thanks for taking some time to chat with us today.
Thanks, Nick.
Just wanted to ask. I know obviously it's been pretty quick, this whole process, but just, what do you know about the team that you're getting? Obviously, you're losing 4 seniors, but you have, some real talent returning in Charlie and Celeste and, a top 20 draft class. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit of a younger team with losing those seniors, but just curious, what you know about this team and, what you're most excited to get to work with them on.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't know just a whole lot other than I recruited Celeste a little bit until she had committed to Texas, and, watched Charlie play in her AAU career. And, we recruited Joanne Allen a little bit as well. So I'm familiar somewhat with some of the young ladies on the team, but really don't have, any kind of necessary idea right now about what our true capability is. And that'll be something that's going to be difficult to wrap around because, right now we can't do anything in the spring with individual workouts. We can't, I don't, summer is so iffy right now. We do know that all classes are going to be online, but, we're certainly hopeful that we can get these kids to campus and work them out in the summer with our individual workouts. But I mean, right now that's so up in the air. You can't count on that. And so, for these young players that are coming off their freshman year, like Celeste, the most improvement you typically makes between your freshman and sophomore year. And for a lot of these freshmen, they're not going to get that time. And so it's a bit concerning, but hey, the most important thing right now, y'all, is bigger than basketball. It's about the safety and the health of our student athletes, their families in this country. And so, we'll manage and handle it the best we can, but we'll work hard when they get here. I've had a chance to visit with Celeste and Charlie. I plan to call the rest of them today. And, they were great on the phone, excited, fired up, just like I am. And, when you have the bookends like those two, that's a good place to start. And I think we've got, hopefully some other pieces that we can plug in. And, again, our goal is to win championships. And we're going to coach this team, whatever the team is. We're going to coach this team just like we've coached every other team, whether it was our national championship team, our conference championship teams. They're going to get our best because they deserve it.
Thanks, Vic. Appreciate the time.
And hold
Thank
for
you.
your next question.
Michelle Vopel from ESPN.com. If I could, I'd like to ask A.D. Del Conte a question first and then follow up with Coach Schaefer. In terms of the coaching search, if I understood what you were telling with Brian, did you say you didn't have any contact with Vic until Friday? And is it standard that you would just hire somebody, you wouldn't interview anybody else? Is that something you've done before?
Well, good afternoon. I think in a search of this magnitude and what we were looking for, as I described to Brian, we had a list of people that a wish list, a list you can get, and the oh my God list. And I'm a big fan of having conversations with the people around. So that my advisors that I talked to that day was Sean Eichhorst, who was so invaluable in this search, who's our deputy, Chris Polanski, our chief of staff, Jody Conrad, who's a legendary coach, and Kathy Hurston, who not only coached herself but knows women's basketball. We coalesced in a conversation when I made that decision at 10 a.m. on Friday. We had these discussions about moving forward. Now, I will tell you that I always have a list of people and the names in my drawer of who you would like to talk to. Once those conversations happened, and I knew that the name we had, I did talk to. We hired a search firm. Obviously, we had a search firm that was hired, that was also engaging in the conversations. But when I decided, okay, hey, we hired a search firm, this is who we're going to go use and how we're going to go about it. When I had that name of Vic Schaefer already circled in my mind, we could get him. He fits everything. Born in Austin, raised in the great state of Texas, only made one mistake, and that was going A&M. But other than that, right, he's everything about the university, about our great state, recruited this great state, coached at A&M, won a national championship. He fit everything about what we wanted, and he built a program from the bottom up. And if you look at every coach that we've hired, they built programs from what Mike White at Oregon took a softball team that was dead last to number one. What Flo did at Kentucky, a track team that had no track team, and took it to national prominence. You've got to have builders that have grit and have work ethic. And I knew who he was. So once we had those conversations, and all of a sudden they go, "Hey, if you can go get Vic, go get him." Well, then you know what? That's a targeted search. You go get the very best you can get, and you focus in on that. And when we decided we're going to target that search and that individual, that's what we did. And that's exactly how you should conduct a search. Go get the very best. Swing for the fences and see what you can do. And that wish list is, if you can get one of those guys on that wish list, men or women on that wish list that wants it, go get them. And when we all coalesced around the idea, if you can get Vic Schaefer, Vic Schaefer, it's no brainer. So Sean goes, "I got the bird," next day, and here we are today.
Okay, I wasn't questioning your hire. I was just trying to understand the process of it.
I was just giving you I gave you the whole process, soup to nuts.
Okay, so but you hired the firm, the search firm, like Friday is what I just wanted to make sure I get that right. You hired the
Friday.
Search firm
Friday.
Okay. And then for Coach Schaefer, Coach, have you decided yet in terms of your staff? Are you bringing your staff from Mississippi State? And I guess specifically, obviously, a lot of us have wondered about Johnny Harris as a candidate to replace you at Mississippi State. Do you know yet if she'll be coming with you? And just your general thoughts about the staff you're going to have at Texas?
Sure. So it's been a blur, obviously, Michelle. And this has all happened so fast. So, I think I've got an idea, but right now I'm just, we're in the process of trying to get through today, the press conference and everything else. But you know how I feel about my staff, and we're family. And if Johnny can be the head coach here at Mississippi State, I'd love that, and there wouldn't be anybody happier for her or more proud.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hold for the next question.
Hello, Vic.
Yes.
Kirk Bowles here from the American Statesman. Congratulations, first of all. Welcome to Austin.
Thanks, Kirk.
And I'd like to ask you a two-parter. How much of a hotbed do you think the state of Texas is in recruiting these days? And how long before you think you can topple Kim Mulkey's dynasty?
Well, first of all, Texas has always had great girls high school basketball. They have tremendous coaches in the state. And so it's always been a place where people come from all over the country to recruit. And so, you've got to try to close those walls and those borders a little bit. And, but I've always had tremendous respect for the coaches in the state. They do a great job. The AAU programs do a tremendous job. I've had Texas players on my roster at Mississippi State, and
right.
had some really good ones. Tierra McCowan's 30 miles from Austin, 38 miles from College Station. 2-time All-American. Dominique Dillingham and Katera Chappell, both Houston and Temple kids, were in that first recruiting class we signed. They get us to, the national championship game, help us beat Connecticut. And so, we've always had some great, great young ladies, good student athletes from the great state of Texas. So it'll continue to be a focal point for us because it's always going to have, great players. Kim, and I've known Kim a long time, have tremendous amount of respect for. The story goes, when I went to Mississippi State, that Scott Strickland, my AD at the time, actually talked to Kim because he worked with her that first year at Baylor, and when he asked for a name, and he threw my name to her. She said, "Well, yeah, Vic would be great, but you can't get Vic. He ain't leaving A&M." And Scott told me, said, that just kind of was a challenge for him. And obviously I left and went. So, I've had to play against Kim a lot throughout the course of my career while we were in the Big 12 at A&M, and then played her in 17 in the Elite Eight, and what is really one of the all-time great games I've ever been a part of. So much respect for her and her staff. I mean, I know all those folks, have known them a long time, know what kind of people they are, and so there's a real respect from my end. At the same time, we're hired to do a job. I'm built. I have no desire to be good. I'm built to try to win championships. That's my mentality. It's really a miserable way to live, but it's just who I am. I just don't have any desire to just be okay or good. And so I'm trying to, we're trying to win championships. I like playing in that last game every year. I've done it twice, 2 years in a row. My best team may have been my Elite Eight team a year ago that got beat by Oregon in Oregon. That team may have been better than the other two teams that made it to the national championship game. But we had to go out to Oregon and play an incredibly talented team out there and a great coach in Kelly Graves. So sometimes those things happen. But, again, at the end of the day, there's a reason why they hired us. Things just aren't all hunky-dory. And so we've got to go in there and we've got to get some things adjusted and changed and go to work. And there's no shortcuts. There's no shortcut in the blueprint. There's no abbreviated pages. There's no clip note. You got to go to work and do it. And it's a process. And I know what that looks like. I've been a part of it many times in my career. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to do it at the University of Texas.
And Vic, are you more like Gary Blair, or are y'all more different as coaches and people?
Here's what I know about, here's what we are alike about. It's all, when he and I would be together, if we had a disagreement, it was over what helps us win. I mean, we both wanted to win so badly. And, we were all about whatever we needed to do to get the job done. And he's a six-time Hall of Famer. I mean, he sees the game at a speed unlike anything I've ever seen. And I was next to him for 15 years. And but I think we're both built in the same way. I mean, he's the Energizer Bunny. He just keeps going. And you have to respect somebody like that. And so, but I just know that he and I, we probably have some differences in some other philosophies. I know we do. But that's what you do when you're an assistant. You take things from people that you work with. You take things from people that you watch when you're playing against them. And that's how you develop your own philosophy throughout your career. And look, I cut my teeth back in the Southland Conference in 90 to 97. Let me tell you, there were some great coaches in that league back then. Blair was one of them. Linda Sharp was one of them. Roger over at Northeast, the coach at Northwestern State. I mean, there were some great coaches in that league. And so, I learned early on, you better be prepared, or you got no chance. And so throughout the course of my career, I really pay attention. I'm a real perceptive guy. I notice things. You watch Al Brown walk into an SEC tournament with his files under his arm, and he sits at the table all day scouting. That made an impression on me when he would do that for Pat Summitt. And, Pat's teams were always just tough, physical, and aggressive. Well, that's how I wanted my teams to be. And that's what we've become. And, again, somebody describes your team as a tough, physical, aggressive basketball team. You'd like that. But that doesn't say anything about your jump shot.
Thank you, Vic.
Hey, Vic. Zach Boyer here from The Athletic. Thanks for your time today, obviously. Chris just outlined the process and how it went from the university side. But how did it unfold for you? I'm assuming if you brought your family with you for the interview and everything, and presuming you had your mind made up pretty quickly that this is something you wanted to do.
Well, I mean, we got on the plane Saturday morning, and I made that decision late Friday night. And, you know, we got on the plane. We spent Saturday there, came home Saturday night. You know, we slept on it, and you know, Sunday, you know, midday, I had made the decision. And so, you know, yeah, it's just a tough decision. I mean, I'm leaving a really good team. You know, some have ranked it number 3 in the country going into next year, but I'm just leaving some tremendous young ladies and families. I mean, my kids, they were so young this year. We were so young and so inexperienced and at times immature in some of the things we did, but you know, they really, it was really disheartening not to make the NCAA tournament because they had worked so hard, persevered through so many things, and I thought we were poised to make another big run. I mean, you go through the schedule we went through, play the people we played, you know, you get to the NCAA tournament and it almost gets easier sometimes, at least early in the early rounds. And so it just was really disappointing and disheartening because I wanted those kids to experience it. And again, the families, you talk about the players, and gosh, I love them like my own. I've been through so much with so many of them, but their families. I mean, I just have so much respect and admiration for each and every one of their parents and grandparents that entrusted me with their daughters. And it's a really difficult, it's a difficult thing to know that you've coached your last game with them. You've had your last practice with them. And that's extremely difficult because I'm an emotional guy. Y'all know I coach with a lot of passion, a lot of emotion. And that's the way I feel about my kids as well. And it's an emotional decision. And then the other side of that is, y'all, this has been an incredible 8 years at Mississippi State. Our fan base, how they've embraced my family, our program, my players, my staff. There's just a real love affair here. And it's been incredible to be a part of that. And, to know that we've got some dear friends here that are really heartbroken. And we are too in that regard. We love them as family as well. But, at the end of the day, it's about an opportunity. It's a calling, as I said. Every move I've made, I felt, it is an opportunity in my profession, but it's also a calling. And when we came here and we left A&M in 2012, people thought, what in the world are you doing? And it was a calling. It was a calling for me then, and this is a calling also, but it's also an opportunity to be at the premier university in the country, both academically and athletically, to be at a place that's so steeped in so much tradition and history, again, both academically and athletically, but then in my profession, in women's basketball, to know what Texas women's basketball has meant to our game. And for me to try to restore the lore and the tradition and the respect that this program deserves, it's a tremendous, responsibility, but it's one that I'm excited about. And I believe that we can do it just like we did it here. And so, again, it's a calling and it's an opportunity. God's opened this door. I believe it. And I'm ready to walk through it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Coaches.
Hi, Gary. Mel Greenberg. Gary. It's been a long weekend. Hi, Vic. Mel Greenberg.
Good morning. Afternoon.
Can you hear me?
No.
Anyhow, how much easier is it coming in here where you fan base and all the extra stuff which is already in place where it was 0 when you went to Mississippi State?
Mel?
Yeah. Can you hear
Say
me?
it again for me. Say it one more time.
Okay, now I know I got you. I just said, in terms of the fan base, like, I mean, you had to basically build everything at Mississippi State. How much easier is it to have a fan base waiting and a lot of things in place as you come into this program as opposed to Mississippi State?
Yeah, again, in today's world, Mel, there's just so many distractions and so many things for, people to do, families to do with their kids, and so what we've got to do is make our product something that people want to be a part of. And if you followed us at all, if you spent time with us at all, you know how accessible our players are. We don't go to the locker room after games. We spend times with our fans after games. It takes us 45 minutes to an hour to get to the locker room after a ball game at home, as long as we win. And so, that's how you build a fan base. It's how to me, it's our style of play. I mean, I believe here at Mississippi State, our kids deserve all the credit because it's how hard they played the game. I think our fans here identified with that, the respect they had for our blue collar approach to how we played and honored the game. And I think that's the way it is in the world today. I just think that families, the older generation that are so much the supporters of our great game, they respect kids that honor the game and how they play the game. And then they always appreciate the opportunity to just put their arm around you after the game and go, whether they want to hug them and tell them how much they love them or give them a dozen cookies or whatever. It's just, I called my team here the people's team because I really believe some of our fans thought that was their team. It belonged to them. And that's fine. If that's what it takes to put 800 and 500 in the stands every night, and we're going to do it. So they're not averaging that right now at Texas. We've got some work to do in that area, but it's the same as I said here. If people will come watch us play one time, they'll never miss another game. And we went from, selling $25 general admission season tickets for $1, $1 a game or $25 for a general admission season ticket to where we are now having 6,000 season tickets and people having to buy a season ticket reserved upstairs in our current arena. It's been special. And again, just appreciate all of our fans for how they've embraced our program here and loved our kids. So, I believe at Texas, we're going to do the same thing. But again, we're going to have to establish our identity. And I'm sure that as in with any time there's new, there'll be some it'll be new for them, and you'll have, our players are going to grow and learn and realize this is the way we do things. Again, it's not what we do, but how we do it that separates us from the rest of the country.
Okay, thanks.
Please hold for your next question.
This is Howard Megdal. Vic, congratulations. If I could ask you a question first, and then Chris with a follow, if I could. Vic, so first of all, I'm just curious in two ways. When you talk about this being a calling, I'm wondering whether there's any part of you that thinks about how so very close to a championship you got, but that you are now in position to potentially return home to the state of Texas and complete that journey, and whether, the way, Blair and your son being out of school now as well allows for this timing to be the way it is. I'm just wondering how you think all of those have come together in your own life.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Howard. I think that's a great question, and I think you're exactly point on. Again, it's a miserable way to live, but I just have no desire just to be good. And I think we've established here at Mississippi State that, we're here to win championships. And for me, going to the University of Texas, there is no question in my mind that we're going to have that opportunity to win a national championship. And again, that goes to our administration. I'm convinced that's what they want. They're there to support us and give us everything we can possibly need to accomplish that. And they know that they're getting a head coach that's driven and motivated to do just that. And I think that's the biggest thing with any coach worth their salt. You've got to be driven, and you've got to have goals, and you've got to want to be the best you can possibly be. I've walked off that floor 2 years in a row, having lost in the national championship game, the last one being an absolute gut-wrenching heartbreaker. And I was driven that next year to get back. Again, that team may have been my best team of the three. But, again, sometimes you got to have a little luck as well. And we probably didn't have the luck that we needed. But at the same time, it is what it is. My job's to get them through and get them home. And, y'all know me. I'm accountable. I didn't get my kids home that game, and I wear that. I wore it all summer, and, I wore it into the next year. And I thought we were really, really, for our youth and inexperience this year, I was so proud of my young ladies and my student athletes, because I watched them grow up right in front of my eyes, literally daily and hourly sometimes. So no question about it. I think you're exactly right. Timing, opportunity, and the ability to go win a national championship. I mean, I think that's the mindset of any coach at the University of Texas. That's why we're there, and I'm going to do my best to do that.
I appreciate it, Vic. And Chris, my question for you is on a little bit of a different tack. You and Vic have both obviously talked about the tradition at Texas. Well, it's also been a tradition at Texas that there's been a woman running the women's basketball program, the last 44 years, many of those from Jody. And so I guess I wonder whether, it's indisputable what Vic has grown and built and, what he brings to the table. There's no question about that. But I wonder whether it gave you pause to make a hiring decision so quickly, to make the hiring decision be a man, and whether Jody's imprimatur in support of this idea was a critical factor in helping you get to that decision.
I think, first and foremost, the most important thing is we get the very best person to coach our program. The goal is to win a national championship at the University of Texas and take our program to that place. So at the end of the day, you're going to go get the very best person to do that. In my mind, it was always Vic Schaefer. I already had that circled. I spoke to Coach 7 years ago at one time when I was in another institution talking about the job. And from that moment on, I followed his entire career. And he was in my list. I have a list of names that you always keep for every sport, and you follow them, and you constantly take people off, and you add people on constantly. You're constantly paying attention to what's going around the country. And he was the person that I knew a long time ago that I wanted to serve. It's what an athletic director does: is they serve their coaches, student athletes, and I wanted to be with him. But timings didn't work out. So when this opportunity came available on Friday, I knew that was the person I wanted to go talk to first and foremost. However, what was the icing on the cake? Icing on the cake was my conversation with Coach Conrad. It made me just filled up with pride that she sat there and said, "You know what? You got to go get Vic Schaefer." I was like, yeah. I didn't want to get over. I try to keep my emotions inside. And I said, "That's all right, Coach." I talked to Chris Plonska. We talked through all the whole process. I mentioned Vic Schaefer's name. She said, "I don't think you can get him. But if you can get him, go get him. I don't think he's movable." Kathy Harrison, who was with Coach at Tennessee and was here with Coach, she looked at me and she goes, and she just silently mouthed to me, "Vic Schaefer." silently mouthed to me as everyone else was talking around the table. I looked at him like, that's awesome. I mean, it was just a great affirmation of my thought.
Essentially, what you're saying is it was unanimous, so there was no need for a search committee at that point.
I was the search committee of one, me.
Understood.
But you always got to have a conversation with everybody and make sure you want to coalesce around an idea, and that's what President Femis told me when he hired me. He goes, Chris, you're gonna, there's search firms do a lot of things for you, because at the end of the day, you're going to have conversations that at a state institution, you got to go, you hire a search firm to have those preliminary conversations with agents and everything else. Once we got that word back, because I said, hey, okay, Sean hires a search firm. I call the search firm. He says, hey, I need you to make a phone call to this individual. Yes. Confirmation that he'd like to meet with you. Awesome. I then call their AD and say, sir, I have an open search. I'm calling a request to talk to your head coach. I understand that. Sean, let's not mess around. Let's get the bird down to Starkville ASAP. And we did it the next morning. But when President Femis hired me, he said, get decisive, identify who you want, and go get them. And that's how we conducted my search as an athletic director, and that's how we've conducted the last 3 coaching searches that we've had here.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Vic, hey, it's Chip Brown again from Horns 24/7. Could you tell us your parents' names and a little bit about them, and maybe if they're the origin for this grind and not settling for good in your mentality?
Sure, Chip. My father's name was Charles Albert Schaefer. He's a 32-year bird colonel in the Army. Played the bass horn in the band at Texas A&M and was a civil engineer. My mother was a registered nurse, 32 years, newborn and delivery. Just both of them were incredible parents. I grew up in a very loving home. And, really, because my sister's 14.5 years older than I am, she was my kindergarten teacher. She was my reading and spelling teacher from the 1st through the 8th grade. But because of our age difference, I was pretty much a single child. But I saw firsthand what blue collar, hardworking people, look like. They work so hard to provide for our family. I'll give you a little insight to how special my parents were. I can remember going to Wyatt's cafeteria as a young boy, age 10 to 13, when you're eating everything you can get your hands on. And I can remember going to Wyatt's. They would let me, and this is back before Luann platters and things like that, where everything came together. Everything was a la carte, right? I can remember going through the line, and my parents would get a meat and split it, and so that I could have a meat to myself, because I was a growing boy. But that's all we could afford. And so, just growing up. But again, as a kid, I never knew that that's all we could afford. My parents never, the way they treated me and loved me was really incredible. And then growing up in LaGrange, Texas on the weekends, where my dad was born and raised, where my grandmother lived, where both my parents are buried now, 65 miles from campus there at the University of Texas. Just a really, really special time and place for me in my life. So, they certainly had a tremendous impact on me. And, I think more than anything, just the family atmosphere that I was involved in as a child, and has really made an impact on me in trying to provide for my student athletes in what we do as a basketball program. Really, not just my players, but my staff. My staff is family. They don't work for me; they work with me, and so we're all, very close and very tight. So it's I'm honored to. I still live every day. I certainly wouldn't want to disappoint either one of them. You know, my sister gave me my first C when I was in the first grade, which resulted in the first good butt whipping by the colonel. And it just, I come from that type of, that type of structure and discipline, and it's really what I know. And, I think it carries over obviously into not only into sport, but into life. Whatever you allow, you're either coaching it or allowing it. And, so in any case, they're really special people in my life. I'm so fortunate and blessed to have had them as parents. I'm really excited about getting closer to my sister because we're extremely close, but yet we aren't allowed to see each other very much because of the distance.
And what is her name, Vic, your sister's name?
Elaine Baldwin.
And your mom's name?
Her name was Amy Dorothy. Everybody called her
Dorothy.
Dot. Yeah.
Well, and obviously there was a lot of speculation about you possibly, being the heir apparent to Gary at A&M, and you've expressed how the tradition at Texas is like few other places. But what do you tell your Aggie buddies about leading the Longhorns?
Well, first of all, I fought that for 8 years here. People were always so worried that that's what was going to happen. And I kept telling people, look, number one, coach is going to do this until he dies. I mean, he's just the Energizer Bunny. I mean, he's good at what he does. Why would you not want to do it? And so, number one, coach is at A&M and deserves to be there as long as he wants to be there because he's really good at what he does. I mean, he's a 6-time Hall of Famer. So, but I have fought that the entire time I've been here, and gosh, I even had it in my contract early in my time here about that. But over the years, that's been resolved, and this has really become a special place for me and my family. So, I'm sure I'll have some folks over there that'll wonder what in the heck I'm doing. But here's the thing, growing up in that rivalry, there is nobody that knows the eyes of Texas better than I do. And look, I've sat in that stadium. Memorial Stadium in Austin, on the 48th row in the old days in the upper deck, and there's only 50 with icicles coming off my baseball cap on a Thanksgiving football game. So I'm very familiar, with the history and tradition of the University of Texas and have a lot of admiration for it. And once you get inside, you can see, what makes this place so special. And so I'm excited to have the opportunity to represent this great institution, and I look forward to the challenges in front of us. We've got many, but I'm excited about those challenges, and again, look forward to representing the orange and white and restoring the tradition and the national prominence that this program deserves.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone, we have time for one last question, so we'll cue that one up, and appreciate everyone's time.
Vic, can you hear me?
Yes.
Vic, hey, it's Brian again. I just wanted to ask you a kind of a real hardcore basketball specific question. As long as I've known you, you've been all about defense. But you guys led the SEC in shooting the last 2 years, and so what would you say to either the Texas fan base or even your players when you say we are going to be good at this? What is that?
Well, again, I think if you look over the last 4 years, we finished second in the nation offensively 2 years ago, by 0.5 points behind Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. I've really, over the last 4 years, we've really evolved into a great offensive team. I mean, last year we led the country in point differential, 28 points a game. That's an incredible stat. You know, our point differential in the SEC was 20-plus points a game, if I'm not mistaken, a year ago. And so offensively, we've really become good. Now, some of that is skill set and being able to recruit kids with a skill set. I think more than anything, it's the kind of offense that we run. But if you're going to say, you know, one thing about our program or one thing about our team, I think that, you know, anybody that's watched us play is they're gonna walk out of there at night and go, man, those kids play really hard. I mean, you know, that's a tough, physical, aggressive basketball team. And you know, I guess it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, you know, maybe not that long, maybe 5. That's when the new rules started coming into effect, and you know, lots of coaches across the country threw up their hands and they just said, hey, we're going to play zone. And they, you know, they stand around in the 2-3 zone. And anybody that knows anything about me, we're not standing around in a 2-3 zone playing hope you miss defense. And so I remember calling Johnny in and telling her these are the new rules. I said, you know what, we're going to coach better, teach better. And that's what we've done. We spend a ton of time in practice, you know, working on those things that allow us to be good defensively. But we also spend time on things that allow us to be a tough, physical, aggressive basketball team. And again, that doesn't say anything about your skill set, doesn't say anything about your jump shot. So, you know, again, your personnel dictate a lot of what you can and can't do. I have no idea, you know, where we are right now in that regard with the current team. You all know, you know, we recruit to a fit, and that's what we're going to do at Texas. And so I'm excited about that opportunity.